Congresswoman and Ukrainian immigrant Victoria Spartz. Good morning to you, Congresswoman. You know this area, you grew up in Ukraine, and one of the things that has been interesting about the reporters, Fox reporters who are on the ground in the region, they say that the citizens there are not afraid. They're going on with their daily lives, and from their perspective, they don't think that Vladimir Putin is going to invade. A very different message we're hearing from the Biden administration here and in some of our European ally countries. So who's right, and why would they be acting in the way that they are?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. There are several things. You know, first of all, Ukraine being in a state of war for 8 years. And I think, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people there are used to be in the war. And another thing I also think, you know, I think a lot of Ukrainians cannot believe that Russians would actually go and try to kill them, because they understand that Putin is an aggressor. They understand that he has very, very significant personal ambitions, and he really did a lot of propaganda to brainwash Russians too, and does a lot of things that are bad for his country and his people. But people still feel like there are a lot of marriages, and you know, between Russians and Ukrainians. There are a lot of people live in Russia. There are a lot of Russians live in Ukraine, and now they know a lot of them don't even talk to their relatives for that reason. But they still cannot believe that Russians would want to go and kill Ukrainians. So I think it's still that state of disbelief.
On that disbelief, Congresswoman, it's fascinating, the ties you talk about, the intermarriage, the cultural cross ties between Russia and Ukraine, and it's in our lifetime. It's in almost all of our lifetime that Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. I'm curious how all that history, those cross ties, how that influences the average Ukrainian. Meaning, I know there's a fierce independence streak among many. Are there others who are less concerned about where this goes in the future? What's the general attitude in Ukraine?
I think people are very concerned, and unfortunately, this conflict will have implications for a very long time. You know, when I left, I grew up in Chernihiv region, which in the border between Russia and Ukraine, actually the border crossing has a monument, they call it Three Sisters, Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus. You know, so it was very, you know, kind of calm people, never were anti-Russian and anti-Belarusian, were friendly. But even regions like that, after a lot of young people died, after what happened in there, people are very anti-Russian. They do not want an aggression. And I think people are going to be fighting, and Putin underestimating the will of the people to defend their country, because for them it's an aggression of a foreign country.
Congresswoman, you understand the politics of Ukraine and the politics of our country. We have a southern border which is effectively wide open with an invasion of over 2 million illegals and counting under the Biden administration. And a lot of Americans are asking, why should we care what's happening in Ukraine? How would you answer that question?
Well, I think, you know, as a congresswoman who is on, you know, immigration subcommittee and went to border 3 times, I'm appalled what happened in our southern border. And what we did, weaken in our country, we created this instability around the world. But there are several things, you know, what's happening in Europe. First of all, this conflict, the scale of the conflict can escalate in a significant conflict since World War II and have a domino effect in the whole world, the whole Europe. We also see what's happening with Russia now, aligning with China and saying that, you know, Taiwan it's part of China. We've seen what they're doing and how they team up for the aggression. You know, we also do have some commitment under Budapest Protocol, and it's a different type of commitment that to our NATO allies. But if we're going to take nuclear weapons from a country and say that, you know, we'll, you know, provide some assurances for your sovereignty, and then we do nothing about it, what's going to happen next time when we try to negotiate with countries like Iran? So our words should matter something, but unfortunately this administration will slow walking, be very slow on the responses, and didn't project strengths. Now they're trying to, you know, playing a catch-up and put us in a difficult situation right now.
Right.
But the United States is an important guarantor for stability around the world, and we have to stay strong in our commitments.
So well said.
Good answer.
What an interesting perspective. Congresswoman Spartz, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.